folks, Captain Mike here with Captain Djogo from Gorilla Tactics Charters. Another early season striper trip. And we're in Upper Buzzards Bay. A lot of life here. I'm going to let Cap here tell us what's going on.
So we're pretty much chasing birds around Upper Buzzards Bay. We're trying to target larger fish. They've been keyed on the herring. You kind of have to weed through smaller fish, but we're hoping that if we get underneath these schools of smaller fish, we'll be able to pick out some of the bigger fish fishing closer to the bottom. And should be pretty good. The birds are starting to move. The strategy today is to jump around from piles of birds looking for breaking fish, which is pretty typical this time of year. These fresh fish move in here, they're hungry, they're looking for bait, and use a combination of both radar and binoculars to locate these different schools.
And not all schools are created equal. There's more fish on some and birds just feeding on free swimming bait on others.
Yes.
So it does pay to pop from pod to pod.
Yeah, it does definitely pay to pop from pod to pod because, like you said, you'll find different class fish roaming together. Some schools, some birds will hold bigger fish, some different bait, all variables.
And you can spread away from the boats. It never ceases to amaze me. There'll be fish everywhere and then a whole bunch of boats clustered in one spot. But if everyone sort of is patient and spreads out, we can all have a longer day of fishing before the fish get spooked out.
Absolutely.
So the technique we're using today is what we like to call the very technical term, the kerplunk method. So what we're doing is to get under this bait, casting into where I'm seeing the birds working, nice long cast, getting control of my line so I can feel it, but I'm letting that bait drop. Good, as Djogo put it, like at least 15 seconds. I'm reeling slowly because we're drifting toward where I cast, so I'm just trying to keep sensitivity on the line so I can feel it. But this whole time this bait's sinking, and the beauty of the paddle tail, there's plenty of action on the drop. Now a hit, if you get a hit on the drop, feels a lot like a tap. So you want to be ready to set the hook. And now I'm engaged. I'm going to lift that bait up off the surface a little bit, bring it up. Now I'm going to let it fall again. Again, the reeling when I'm doing while the boat's drifting toward the lure is just to keep direct connection so I can be sensitive to any bumps or strikes I might get. Now we've been switching between the white and the blue herring. Today we're about 50-50 on the two colors. And I think either way, regardless of the colors, the bone or the blue herring, we have good herring imitations. Which is what is going on here. There's a mixture of little bait on top, and then there's also a herring in the area, and the bigger fish are keyed in on the herring a little further down, which is why, again, we're doing the kerplunk method. Casting out, letting the lure sink, and then emerging back up, so you fish that arc, all levels of the water column. This guy definitely wanted this jig on the drop. Getting a little bigger today. Chunky fish. And pop the hook out. Get him back in. Now this is our first real fish of the day. That bait was let to sink for easily 15 seconds down. Djogo is doing a great job landing that fish. We're definitely going to log this one in the Got One app. So we're going to log this fish. Jack's going to take a picture. That's going to get all the details, spot, time, tide, time of day, all the good stuff, so we can know when to come back here. Now it's time to get this fish released. I'm going to keep this fish in the water the best I can for release. Got our boat side picture, logged the fish and got one. I'm just going to swim this guy a little bit. It's nice and cool this time of year, so you're going to swim off pretty easily. That was a nice fish. First real fish of the year. So here's a deep look on the outfit we were using today with the Hogy Protail Thumper in the 1.5 ounce Hogy Barbarian Jig Head. Now let's start with the reel. This is a 4000 class Daiwa reel, our standard issue size reel and pretty much all our inshore shoots. Paired a 20-pound test braid. Fish were finicky today, so we downsized to a 15-pound test fluoro leader, and that did the ticket. Often I use 20-pound test. So the rod is the Hogy Inshore Series, 7-foot medium heavy. Now this rod is rated from 3/4 of an ounce all the way to 2 ounces, but that's a conservative rating. For example, this lure was 2 ounces today. I feel comfortable throwing up to, say, a 3-ounce lure with this outfit, but surely you're good with a 2-ounce lure. Now, specifically talking about the lure, again, this is the Hogy Protail Thumper paired with an 1.5 ounce Hogy Barbarian Jig Head. Now, we're trying to imitate herring, so obviously 6.5 to 7-inch soft bait is a great imitator of herring. Obvious colors today. This is the herring pattern we have, but a translucent bone or a blue and silver are great colors. Now, what I like about the paddle is we're fishing with a kerplunk method, where we're casting and letting the bait drop and swing and come up, fish all levels of the water column. So with this oversized paddle, it's going to fish on the drop and certainly fish on the crank. Anytime this bait is just literally moving through the water, that tail's going to be thumping, hence the name. So it's a nice, versatile, easy to use, all levels of the water column lure to use for when stripers are keyed in on herring. Well, the takeaway from today is make sure you bring your mesh crate, because we started with small fish keyed in on small baits using small lures. Quickly learned that there was herring and bigger fish in the area, ran the audible, switched over to the big soft baits and got the biggest fish of the day.
Yeah, and fortunate too, because today is completely different than the past few days from reports and experience. So it was nice having the options to do so, and I think the key was definitely bumping around until we found fish that were willing to play with us. There was no lack of fish, it's just they were keyed in on such small baits that they made for some tough fishing today.
Yeah, they were finicky fish, and if we had stayed with the small baits, we probably would have caught more fish. By going to the bigger baits, we got fewer, but more sizable fish. So, always an adventure.